Well done. Thank you very much. I'm looking at a flag on the wall across from me there, and let's stand and pledge our allegiance to her. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, and be seated. Roll call.
Commissioner Frank Mann.
Here.
Renee Afforded.
Here.
Mike Gibson.
Here.
Fran Myers. Here. Anita Saracita.
Here.
Pamela Cronin.
So happy to be here.
Tony Laffey.
Here.
Colleen DePasquale.
Here.
Robert Wells.
Here.
Bill Wachulis.
Here.
And Jeff Webb.
Here. Sounds like a quorum?
Yes.
We may proceed. Well, let's proceed by recognizing Christine Davlin for some fun.
Ready or not, here we come, right?
Well, go for it.
This is great. Okay.
On a rainy day, we're still going to smile and laugh.
Yes, we are. Yes, we are. So good morning, everybody, and Happy New Year. And I'm always so pleased and honored to be up here to talk about the Guest First program. I think you all know we are headed into peak season, and there is nothing more important than the way that we treat our visitors when they come to this area. So I know we have a beautiful destination and lots of neat things to sell, and but when we get the folks here, it's how we treat them that really makes a difference. So as a very quick reminder, the Guest First program, which is the VCB's very own customer service program, partnered with the American Hotel and Lodging Educational Institute, it's such a mouthful, so that we could actually offer the Certified Guest Service Professional exam to everyone that completes the Guest First program. So with that said, we had a lot of people take the exam last year, and we're so pleased to be able to recognize those individuals that have passed their exam, again, to be a certified guest service professional. So that means that these guys are out in our community, they get it, and they're offering the best service they possibly can to all of our visitors. So with that said, we are going to, yes, I guess you're kind of thinking that maybe I'm going to use that. Yeah, that didn't work out real well, did it? Okay, these are the two classes that we're recognizing, so there's all the folks, because not everybody could be here with us today. But when I call your name, if you would please come up, and we will give you a pin, a certificate, and then Commissioner and Tam will actually shake your hand and congratulate you. So again, I am so, so proud of this group. It is a short and sweet presentation, but I want you to know that we really, really appreciate all your dedication to this program. So with that said, I'm sorry? Cheering is welcome. Okay, thank you. Everybody cheers super loud. Okay. Ashley Davis, I am not sure if she actually made it today. Okay. Claire Harris from Billy's Rentals. Vanessa Flint. Armand DePietro. Susan Tutko. Turn around. Turn around.
This is regionalism.
Yeah, this is regionalism. Thank you. And thank you for coming from Collier. Tony Santana. Elizabeth Arnold. Okay. We got, yes. As long as both parties agree. It's all good. Okay, from Pink Shell Resort, we have Alicia Wiley. David Rashty. Okay, that's all right. Katya Kuhns. Michelle Davis. Molly Lynch. And then from Sanibel Captiva, Doug Babcock. Cheryl Stanley.
Recount.
Judy Coleman.
Oh, ice cream cone for 72.
Exactly.
Carrie, you're gonna, anybody want to attempt that last name for me? Christina Weddington. We also have Stephanie Toscano. Nicole Reed. And Ro, you're going to kill me, but you're just going to be Ro. Okay, so that's it, and thank you so much for your time and attention. So now we are up to 293 graduates, so we're hoping actually with our last exam, which was a week ago, that we'll be passing the 300 mark of certified guest service professionals in our destination.
Wow. Congratulations.
Okay, that's a great way to start one of our agenda. Kick it off with a smile and a hug and a handshake, and we combined all three at one time. And which was your buddy's name that made the 72 that barely made it?
Doug Babcock.
Oh, Doug, good. Hey, that's it. Was that your first try, Doug? Very good. We're proud.
Driver.
We're proud of all you guys and what you bring to our community in vibrance and professionalism. Thank you so much. If you've had a time to look at your minutes, I would welcome a motion to approve them. I got a motion. I got a second by the lady right next to him. Does anybody object to this? No. Show it adopted. We have approved the minutes. Wow, we're moving right along here. Public to be heard. Anybody from the public that, well, just grab the mic, identify yourself, and start talking.
Good morning. For the record, John Naylor, the Executive Director of the City of Palms Basketball Tournament. First, I want to thank the TDC and Jeff Milkey and the Sports Development Office for their support and your support to help make our tournament the success that it is. 2015 was the 43rd annual City of Palms Tournament. It concluded 22 years at Bishop Verot. Next year, we're moving to the new Suncoast Credit Union Arena at Florida Southwestern, as I think everybody knows. We're going to go from about 2,200 seats to about 3,300 seats. And so we're a lot more room, a lot more comfortable for everybody. One of the major goals that I had when I took over the tournament 2 years ago was to increase the awareness of both the City of Palms Tournament and Lee County as a visitor destination. Some of the things we did to accomplish that were a new logo, a new website, increased social media presence, and electronic newsletter and more press releases. The results, in December we had over 54,000 visits to our website. Our Twitter impressions went from 118,000 in December of 2014 to 1.29 million in December of 2015. The slam dunk post that we had, little video clip that we had on there, was viewed by over 8,000 times on the day of that event. Over 1,200 live streaming visitors were able to watch the tournament literally from coast to coast. The winner last year was Chino Hills from California and Laura Ruane's hometown. So big cheer for Laura. But I know that they took that live streaming and actually showed it in their gym, so they had a packed gym in Chino Hills following the team, from California. We had record attendance. I've never seen the gym as full as it was. Last 2 years we ran out of programs, so this year we printed more, and so fortunately we have some left over, and that's why I was able to bring a program for everybody. So at your leisure, take a look. You can see past performance and also the future dates at Florida Southwestern. Probably the most impressive statistic that's on the cover is that 51 current NBA players, not history, current NBA players, that's 11.3% of the current NBA rosters have played in this tournament at least one time. So again, thank you for your support and just going to get bigger and better. Thanks again.
Thank you, John, for your very positive report there and for your enthusiasm and continued leadership in so many ways. Other members of the public?
Hi, my name's Kathy Incardona. I'm the practice director for Lee Convenient Care. We're bringing something a little bit different to the Taurus Council. We're bringing access to health care. And a lot of your visitors come and see us at our Summerlin location close to the beach. We've been open for 3 years, and I've been privileged to come to this committee before to kind of let you know that we're there to service the community. What we have found last year is we had an unprecedented flu season, and we had a lot of patients flocking to the emergency room because they were so sick. But we want to make sure that we go ahead and educate the public as to where the proper care is so that we're not flooding the emergency rooms with minor illnesses. So Jennifer has passed out a little brochure. We'd love for you to go put them in your hotels and places where tourists will need health care so that they make the right decision so they don't unfortunately spend 12 hours in the emergency room for something they can take care of 7 days a week from 7 in the morning to 7 in the evening. We have 3 very convenient locations. So if you're not by Fort Myers Beach or Sanibel, we also have a location in Cape Coral and center in town at Page Field. But we'd love for able to be to meet our mission. We have an employee-driven mission, written and driven. It is to meet the health care needs of our community that include our visitors of Southwest Florida and to have friendly and convenient care for minor illnesses. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy, so much.
How can we get them? We'll go ahead and leave our name here, and we'll be happy to get them out to your community and your locations.
Yeah, while you're there, and thank you for bringing it up. You guys, I don't think were here when I last chaired this 4 or 5 years ago, so that I know Lee Memorial Systems and all their outreach programs. How do you, on a regular basis, contact our hoteliers and other people involved in tourism so they know this great service is available?
It's a great question. We have Amy Stroud that goes out to the hotels throughout the year, especially during high peak season, to let everyone know. And our brochure has been updated to reflect the needs of what they needed to know, not just the location and phone numbers. So she does go out, and she has frequent your facilities, and she'll be changing out the brochures from the single-handed to the pamphlet that shows minor illnesses and major illnesses.
Kathy,
Just a second, Tamara.
Kathy, perhaps you could write a little blurb with maybe a link to your website and send it to us, and we can include it in our partner newsletter, just as a friendly reminder that, rather than sending guests to the emergency room, Lee Memorial is encouraging guests to be sent to convenient care, and here's a link to the list of locations or whatever, and we can include that in our newsletter.
We did do that a few months ago, but we're happy to do it again. It wasn't quite some time ago.
Yeah, let's do it again since it's starting to be high season if we send it out in our next newsletter. Just a thought, it will help. And maybe save a few brochures.
And we're very sensitive to the high season. We double our numbers in all our facilities, so we make sure that we have more physicians and nurse practitioners come on board, as well as staffing, so that we can meet the needs of the public. Any other
Kathy,
questions?
thanks again.
Absolutely.
If you're visiting here in Lee County from out of the state or out of the country, the service you guys provide can be such a comfort in that time of need. So thank you for what you're doing, and we look forward to working even more closely and more effectively.
It's our pleasure.
Thanks again.
Thank you.
See ya. Anybody else from the public? Oh, yes, we got somebody bringing their own pictures.
build it up in a second. Good morning. I'm Sharon McAllister. I'm the Director of Art Fest Fort Myers. I think I know most of you. I have been here before in January. To thank you for several reasons, actually. One, to thank you for the great support that comes from the TDC grants. We are part of the Marketing and Attractions grant cycle, and it is invaluable to us to be able to support what we do to attract visitors and enrich their experience here. If you look on your tables, I put a copy of Travel Host there. There's a little tab at the top. This is what it marks. We have the center 24 pages of the magazine. It's a special edition for us. It goes in the middle. We pay for it's one of the things we pay for out of our TDC grant. The first half of the magazine, the special section, is about the art festival. This is a 3-month magazine. We're a 3-day event. The rest of the magazine, our special insert, is about downtown and the promotion of the River District. So we share that with them, but we produce and pay for the entire thing. So I want you to see that sample. I also, and it goes to the hotels. Many of you are hoteliers and you know what this magazine is, and many of you have it in your rooms and many of you have it in your lobbies. It also goes to some visitor centers, and we overprint 5,000 copies that go to the residents of the area to promote. I also wanted to show you and share with you because this is this year's poster for the Art Festival. You might recognize the artist. Anybody recognize the artist? It's Leona Lovegrove. She is also an important artist to the VCB. So we have a great relationship with her. That is the poster. You'll notice it's also the cover of Travel Host, and it's also my shirt.
I thought there was a connection there. Yes.
You normally wear something more formal if I was coming there. So we're excited about that. I also left on your tables for all the voting members. There's an envelope there that has complimentary VIP tickets from us. The VCB also gets them, but we'll deliver them next week. We hope you come join us for the weekend and have reserved parking, which is probably, in addition to the open bar, the most valuable piece in there. Reserved parking. So thanks again for that. I'm also, I want to make sure that you all know, 2 years ago we started Publix Run to the Arts, which is a 5K. Sunday morning of the Art Festival. It started with 672 runners in its first year. I understand from people like Jeff Melke that's a really big deal to have that many runners wherever he went. We will pass 1,000 this year, and when we get to 1,000, we're closing the run. It's big enough to handle because our actual event is a fine art festival. And I just wanted to mention, unrelated to the art festival, on the table when you came in is this brochure. It is for the really, really spectacular public art exhibit going on downtown right now. I am sure you heard about it on the news. There was an interesting meeting of the Public Art Committee on Monday night to resoundingly reaffirm that we are not removing anything or part of anything. So, but this is great. If you have not yet seen it, that was a request. That was a request. If you haven't seen this, you really need to walk around downtown another day and see it. It's spectacular. It'll be here till the end of March. So thank you again. We hope you come to the Art Festival.
Aaron, don't go too far. Tamara's got a little addition.
You know, I know you participated with Allure on that exhibit,
Yes.
on the exhibit, and I just want to say how fabulous it has been. You know, our offices are here in this building to watch all the people taking their pictures and selfies with this art. Obviously, this community is craving public art, so I'll get off my soapbox,
Yep.
but it's been amazing to watch. I mean, you know, it's a little bit like when you first did the Eagle Cirque next door. You know, all the people coming by to take their picture with the Eagle. Well, it's been, you know, Colleen, I'm sure you've seen it as well. It's been that way downtown. It's just really been fabulous, gratifying to see, and I'm sure it's got to be helping them get known for sure because everybody is interested.
Yeah, it's a great exhibit. It's great for the city. It came here by the very generous developers who want to support public art, and we were involved. We did the layout, and we helped with a lot of the promotion and a lot of the after discussion the first few days.
Let me add my kudos to the artists and to the fact that y'all put it all together. It's really fantastic and so unique in the art world is what it does. And those of you who have not seen the most famous one that has made the news, you'll be happy to know that Tamara made certain it was placed right here on that corner. So
you know
catch
what?
it before you leave.
It actually happened totally by accident. Sorry, Tamara.
We're happy.
I had only seen the photographs of that sculpture from the back. I had not seen the rest of it. We put it there because it fit the corner well. We didn't know that it was also going to be great for you guys to watch out the window.
Well, if it's raining, get in your
Oh,
car
dear.
and go east on Main Street and turn slowly on Henry Street, and
Get a good view.
Thank you.
and you can run your video while you're going by. Public, yes.
Hi, thank you. Carol Obermeyer from Southwest Florida International Airport. I just wanted to give a quick update at the airport. We've had a fantastic year, and everybody, you can thank yourselves for that. We'll have our numbers, our calendar year numbers here coming out shortly, but we've seen increases in capacity into our Canadian markets with Montreal going daily now for seasonal service. The Toronto is doing so well with Air Canada and along with WestJet. Frontier added 2 more cities, Indianapolis and Detroit, so they're up to 10 nonstop cities. Delta has increased and upgauged their aircraft into their major hubs, so we've got a lot of capacity going into their hubs. But what we're really excited about, and I wanted to give a shout out to Tam and to Jack. Where are you, Jack? There you are. Stephanie and Claudia did a fabulous job. They went to Puerto Rico to meet with travel agents. It was fantastic. I talked to them about it, and they had such really good feedback on it, and it shows in the flights. Sun Country added a 3rd nonstop, San Juan. It's doing really well. They're going to probably keep that throughout the summer. So the load factors are high, both inbound and outbound. So you guys, thank you so much for doing that. I wish I could have went, but I think Brian and I were traveling. So just thank you so much, and we're going to keep working at it and getting more air service. We updated our incentive program in October, so we're going to have more marketing money to target specific markets in the UK, Germany, anywhere in Europe, of up to $500,000 per market for nonstop specific market targeting specific carriers. Along with our incentive program, also we will waive rates and charges and landing fees for 2 years. So we're really excited about it, and we can't wait to partner with everybody here to put a package together and talk to the airlines to get a nonstop UK, to talk to more Latin America. So we're excited, and I know you guys are too. So thank you for helping us everything we do, and we'll get some more.
Before you leave, let me say on behalf of everybody here, your boss man, he's just had some fairly serious back surgery. We just send our very warmest wishes and hope he's up jogging around the airport again real soon. And just let me say also thank you for the wonderful partnership that RSW works with the entire tourist industry around here. Your own numbers reflect the massive increase in tourism over the last few years, and you are a great partnership to be a part of. So
No,
thank you.
We feel the same way.
Yeah, thanks so much. More from the public.
Good morning. My name is Teresa Schober. I know many of you from various historical and archaeological projects that have come before the TDC. This morning I want to alert you to some legislation that is before the Florida House and Senate. House Bill 803 and Senate Bill 1054 essentially legitimizes the looting of historical and archaeological artifacts from state-owned submerged lands. Between 1996 and 2005, there was a program that was run by the Division of Historical Resources called the Florida Isolated Finds Program. People, if they stumbled upon an artifact in a river bottom or a lake bottom or somewhere on submerged lands, if they reported that artifact, they would, the division could record it, record the location of its find, and then the individual would be allowed to curate that artifact on behalf of the rest of the citizens of the state of Florida. Well, it was discontinued in 2005 because it had been, over the course of the 10 years it ran, the data that was collected showed that 85% of the recordings were done by a tiny percentage of the people who were picking up artifacts in river bottoms and lake bottoms. Since that time, there's been a movement by some archaeological societies based out of state that participate in the antiquities market. So collecting artifacts and then selling them, which is a perfectly legitimate process if artifacts are obtained from private-owned land. They have now hired a lobbyist, and these bills were introduced on November 30th, and they enter committee next week. But there's been a couple of really significant changes. One is that an individual can use hand tools to dislodge from submerged lands artifacts, and they then become their own personal property to sell in perpetuity. The state is also required to provide anyone who applies for a permit for collection of artifacts to supply them with information of where existing known archaeological sites are. Archaeological site information is currently exempt from the Florida Sunshine Law for the very specific reason that archaeological sites are looted to participate in an illicit antiquities market. So this particular bill is going to effectively create irreparable damage to Florida's archaeological and historical resources on submerged lands. And it has a maximum fine of $1,000. Many of these artifacts sell for 10 times that amount. And so it's sort of a slap on the wrist. And the main individuals that are involved in bringing this to the legislators are actually involved in this antiquities market, one of which is from a society that has hired the lobbyist, produces the price guide for artifact sales, and there's a number of them. Florida historical submerged sites are very unique. We have sites like Key Marco, which many of you know, Calusa artifacts, wooden artifacts that were recovered in the 1890s. A site of Windover, a submerged burial ground with 8,500-year-old human skeletons with brain tissue intact and fiber coatings on these individuals. Intact sites in northern Florida with ivory tools and Clovis points from the very earliest people who came into the North America and certainly into Florida at least 12,000 years old. So unlike river bottoms in Georgia and the Carolinas, where you have mountain stream flow and artifacts become disassociated from their site of origin, and they truly are isolated finds with no additional archaeological context, that is not the case in Florida. And so there have been cases, and in fact some of the individuals who have promoted this legislation have previously been caught violating the Antiquities Acts in Florida and have been charged as such. In Florida, people have taken dynamite to archaeological sites on submerged lands in northern Florida to essentially harvest our state of its cultural resources for sale. I have brought this to the attention of one county commissioner, and I plan on sort of making the rounds, but I just heard notice at 5 o'clock yesterday that it is going to committee on Tuesday. There are two local representatives, Dane Eagle and Heather Fitzenhagen, who are on the subcommittee in the House that is reviewing this because it's been sent to the Heritage Tourism subcommittees, Economic Development and Tourism subcommittee, as well as the Appropriations Subcommittee on Transportation, Tourism, and Economic Development. And so I certainly hope that the Tourist Development Council might have a vested interest in helping us oppose this legislation as written, because it really could have disastrous effects. We have a tremendous amount of state-owned submerged lands in Lee County, and I haven't yet grasped the full negative consequences that could be done, or that could ensue if this legislation is passed. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions? This is kind of a unique request, and I'm not sure where we want to go with it, but in fact, let me ask my lawyer lady here.
Before you ask that question, I'd like to just say that there have been some communities that have mobilized. The City of St. Augustine last week passed a resolution in opposition to the legislation.
Well, what I was going to ask her is it appropriate for this body to express itself in, for instance, a letter from the chairman to the appropriate legislative members, or at least our local delegation, expressing our concern about the potential damage to Florida's historic archaeological artifacts? Okay, I needed to understand what our legal authority, how independent can we be? We're independent enough to start such a request, but it'll have to be signed off on by the Board of County Commissioners, which meets next Tuesday?
Yes.
Yes. Is there consensus here that you would like to move in that direction, at the very least expressing our concern about the potential damage this bill might cause? We'll get together and craft the language.
Commissioner, what the time frame? What did you say Tuesday was?
Tuesday, the meeting, the bill being heard, but it's got to be
It's
heard
being
in
heard.
several steps.
It does, and the first subcommittee meets on Tuesday at 1:30, and there's no guarantee that that particular bill, of all of the bills that the subcommittee will reflect upon, will necessarily move forward on Tuesday afternoon, but it did catch us a little bit by surprise that it's out of the gate and running, and it's moving fast.
As most everybody knows, the legislature has just convened earlier this year than they usually do, and they're taking up bills right away. There are a number of steps each bill has to take. I think, Counselor, would you allow me to do this? Contact each, particularly the two members of the local legislative delegation that are on that committee where the bill is going to be heard, and let them know of, if we pass such a resolution here or motion, that this body has acted on it, and on Tuesday we hope the county commission will be voting on it. It's just an informational step in case the press misses it, and they don't miss anything. I mean, they are really good folks. Well, as Mayor, yes.
What is the bill number?
It's House Bill 803, and it is Senate Bill 1054. And I did bring a copy of the printed bill.
I'd like to have one because the town council meets on Tuesday, and I feel certain that we would pass a resolution to that effect because we have as you well know, have an archaeological site on the island,
And state-owned submerged lands abut right up to that property.
That's right. So I'd love to have a copy.
I have drafted sort of a packet of information that includes the subcommittees and the committee members, as well as a copy of the City of St. Augustine's resolution, which of course is specific to their own cultural resources, and some additional information that has come out of Tallahassee on some points about the particularly unique condition of Florida submerged resources, and a copy of the bill. So I'll make sure, I don't know if I should send the packet to Nancy McPhee, and then she'll do the distribution on my behalf. But certainly if you have any questions, I'm available to answer them.
Teresa, thanks again for your report. Now, let me see if I can proffer a motion here that somebody could make to direct the chairman of the TDC to ask the county commission to express itself to the Lee County Legislative Delegation of our great concern over the potential damage of these two bills, HB 803 and SB 1054.
I would make that motion.
Second.
Okay, we have it made and seconded. Is there any discussion on that? Is there any objection to it? Well, by gollies, we're passing legislation here this morning. Good for us. Thank you very much for that, and we'll move strongly and swiftly as we can.
Thank you. And I did meet with Commissioner Pendergrass yesterday, and he encouraged me to make meetings with the other county commissioners. So on your voicemail or in your email box will be an email from me saying
I'm not going to call you back.
Okay.
We're done.
Yeah, we're good.
Yeah.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Teresa, one more time. Other members of the public would like to address us this morning? Well, no, that means we run out of public, but we still got cities to go, and we have at least one here this morning. Mayor Siracida, you want to speak on behalf of your town? Sure.
I'll be glad to. I really had planned on saying something under TDC members, but what I wanted to tell you all was there's a lot of developments and in many manners happening on Fort Myers Beach right now. We have a road construction. Estero Boulevard is being done thanks to the County Commission and the MPO. We also have the town is doing a stormwater project and a potable water project, much to the inconvenience of our residents and visitors. And we also have a new hotelier in town, Tom Torgerson of TPI Hospitality,
who did a latest presentation last night. It will ultimately be a joint venture, using that word lightly, between the county, the town, and this hotelier, basically to redevelop the downtown area of Fort Myers Beach. I'd encourage you, as people in this business, to visit their website, which is grandresortsfmb.com, just to be up to date with the developments that are happening there. It does involve county lands, his current proposal. It involves town right-of-way, and of course, he has amassed a significant amount of properties in our downtown area. Currently on his agenda, he has a Hilton property, a Holiday Inn property, and an AC Marriott property. He did have part of a Hampton Inn property in his plans, but he has dropped that now. And it's an interesting development. By no means, please think that I'm promoting this. I simply think that for you all in this industry, you should be aware of the changes that are coming to Fort Myers Beach.
Well, thank you, Mayor.
Yes, sir.
Any other comments on behalf of your fine community?
We could use some more trolleys, and I could make a whole little list, but I won't. We always appreciate all the support that we get from the TDC and the County Commission, and thank you, Commissioner.
Well, thank you very much, Mayor. Are there other cities that are represented here today that would like to address the TDC? Well, everybody is so happy and so satisfied with the work that we're doing right now. Wonderful. Tamara, is it back to you?
I think it is.
Well,
Thank you very
over.
much.
You have the
Happy
power.
New Year. Can't believe it's the beginning of the year and we're already halfway through the month, right? Today is not exactly a VCB day, but hopefully it will be over tomorrow and we'll be back to sunshine and blue skies. Bed tax collection for the month of November came in at just over $2 million, a 9.1% increase over that same period in 2014. Year to date, of course, that's only 2 months of collection, just a little over $4 million, which it represents a 12.4% increase for that October-November time frame. Starting off fiscal year 2016 in a very strong position like we had last year. Moving on to the Smith Travel Research Report, occupancy for November was up 6.3%, just under 70% occupancy. ADR at 5.5% at $113.72. And the revenue per available room, or RevPAR for short, was an increase of 12.1% over the previous year, coming in just under $79. So strong performance on the hotel side. Airport traffic, similarly, November airport traffic up strong, 7.6% increase there. Good news for the airport. And year to date for them, of course, that's on calendar years. They're almost at the end of their year, 7.5 million passengers through the airport. So we'll break 8 for sure, huh, Carol? Will it be the largest year ever? I assume so. We've had really good year this year, 4.6% up year to date. So fantastic news for the airport. Good news for all of us who want to travel in and out of the airport. More capacity and more flights for us to have the opportunity to explore, and potentially more visitors to bring in on those flights. Also want to share with you a couple of things. Next month on February 11th, that TDC meeting, it's unfortunate that we didn't do it this one because every single one of you is here. We're going to take your photo before the meeting. So, before or after?
Whatever's most convenient.
Yeah, I think well, I guess we'll have to see. If everybody comes a few minutes early, we'll do it before. If not, we'll do it at the conclusion of the meeting. But we want to get your photo. As you know, we have some new faces around the table, and we like to get a photograph every year. So please, wear your Sunday best, I guess, next week, or next month, excuse me. Also wanted to share with you that FGCU's Wanderlust event is coming up. there's some information about it in your packet, but in addition to that, the VCB, as we always do, is sponsoring the event, and we do have a table for that event, and I would encourage our TDC members who would like to participate to take advantage of our seats there. So if you are at all interested, and I will send you a reminder. Somebody help me with the date. March 19th, sorry. March 19th is the date, so if you can join in, and I say come with your pocketbook or your wallet prepared, because this is all about raising money for FGCU. Fabulous trips, fabulous auction items. They do a silent auction. They also do a live auction there. It's a lot of fun, really nice evening. It's going to be, they're going back to a hotel. They're going to the Hyatt, and it's going to be a really fabulous event. So if you have the opportunity to join in on the 19th of March, I encourage you to do so, and we're happy for you to have one of our tickets, so, or two if you want to bring your guest. With that, the big news at the VCB this week is that we have a new marketing director, and I am really pleased to introduce Brian. So Brian, will you stand up? Brian, Pamela and I have been smiling since he showed up. As you can guess, wearing multiple hats is always fun, but we're really pleased to have Brian join our team. I will tell you a little bit about Brian. Brian comes to us from the Bach Tower. He was the marketing and communications director at the Bach Tower. He also, before that, he was with the Shenandoah Valley Travel Association in Newmarket, Virginia. And what I liked about Brian is that he worked very hard on regional co-ops and cooperation between the region there and the Shenandoah Valley. That was essentially his charge. And so I'm really excited about his ability to build a coalition in the region. He also comes to us with a lot of experience on the performing arts side. He worked for the American Shakespeare Center, and prior to that, the Knoxville Symphony Orchestra, and at one point, the Sarasota Ballet. So not only is he a brilliant marketeer, but he also has that arts and cultural side that I think is so important to enhance our community. We all know about the beaches, and our visitors know about the beaches, but we're going to extend those stays by making sure they know about all the other cultural assets in our community. So Brian will be a great member of the team. We're really excited to have him, and I hope you'll take a few moments to get to know him, at least shake his hand after the meeting. And he will be out, and he will be around, so over time you'll have the chance to meet him as well. But congratulations to the team on hiring a great marketing director, and welcome, Brian. And not only does the VCB have a new staff member, but I think Jeff Milkey has something to announce, so I'm going to turn it over to Jeff.
First, Happy New Year, Chairman and Council. It's already a start to a great year, and we're incredibly excited and proud to announce that for the first time in our 12-year history, we have expanded our staff, and as of December 28th, Angel Natal joined our team. Angel comes to us from, come up here and stand, don't be shy. Angel comes to us from Tucson, where he was the sports director for Visit Tucson, Convention Visitors Bureau. He was there for 2 years. Before that, he worked for 8 years for a friend many of you know, D.T. Minnick, where he was the senior sales manager for the St. Pete Clearwater Sports Commission, also working within their Convention Visitors Bureau. So we're thrilled to have Angel on board. He and Gary are going to basically split up our business development efforts, and we're going to do a lot of really cool things, hopefully very quickly. Angel brings an extensive knowledge of international sports tourism to our team, which we've really never dabbled in before, but very close contacts to Canada, European baseball, Latin American baseball, swimming, and softball. So we're thrilled to have him on board, and we're very lucky to have pulled him back to the state from Arizona. So please join me in welcoming Angel to our team.
And last but not least, I just kind of wanted to add on to what Carol said about air service development. You know, Carol, we all want that UK flight really bad, and just wanted to say here at the table, you know, I think your TDC members would probably support some marketing resources above and beyond our regular budget to pursue an opportunity like that. If we had to hit the reserves to make something like that happen, I think that's something that, from a staff level, we would recommend and without hesitation, and I think your board would support it. I just throw that out there. I want to make that a public announcement that, we are very, very interested. I mentioned that to Jean before the holidays, but, we'd be happy to see if the commission wouldn't consider that if we could get support on this level.
Well, I'm certain that the commission would entertain that with great enthusiasm if it came from this august body. So, and we look forward to that down the road. I'm glad you kind of went back to the RSW and the partnership that I was bragging about a minute ago. Some of you know, but I bet a lot of you don't, that there's not a penny of ad valorem tax dollars goes into the operation of the airport. It's run with fees, all kinds of fees, but mostly with when you buy a ticket to fly somewhere, we have an agreement, and the airlines that fly out there all are a part of this agreement that we budget ourselves based on those fees and other fees as well. To the extent we can keep those fees low, it makes it easier for people to fly in here because the tickets are lower. And I wanted to point out that it has been the policy of the Port Authority, which is the county commission wearing that other hat, for the last quite several years, to do everything we could to increase the revenues coming into the airport operation, such as what you see all the merchandising at Page Field when you drive past it. We're also trying to do the same. The federal government wouldn't let us do that, but there were some rule changes and whatnot, so now we're able to lease that land and produce quite significant revenues all around Page Field, and we can also do that at the big airport, and that's what we're continuing to do. So that's, when you see the numbers going up at the airport, that is so good because that means we and the airlines can charge a little less, all else remaining equal, for the tickets that people are paying. And in recent years, we really haven't had to depend on those fees. Now, I can't tell you what they're doing, the big airlines in the sky. Last night I see that they're going to raise fees again. Well, doggone, they might have raised them more if we weren't doing all the things we're doing. And we're producing substantial revenues at the airport to do our part to make this a fun and an inexpensive place to come to. So I'm proud of the work you guys are doing and the leadership that Mr. Ball has demonstrated his entire career out there with us. That's why we need him up and working again quick as we can. Okay, with that, where does that leave us? Clayton Reed? Clayton? We'll go to it, buddy.
I shall. Thank you. Good morning. Well, I think last time I was here, it was either Commissioner Webb or Commissioner Wells that brought up shared accommodations or shared services in our community. And Tam asked me to come back and make that presentation today for you, so that's what I'm going to do. So if we pull up that slide a minute, that'd be great. It's kind of an issue at the moment for the travel industry is what's going on with shared services and how disruptors have come into the marketplace and how it affects us as a tourism community, but also how it affects the operators themselves. So obviously the usual suspects, Airbnb, HomeAway, which is now owned by Expedia, Uber, Lyft, the transportation players, even now ExoJet. I'm not sure if you're familiar with ExoJet, but it's actually a shared service for private jet transportation, people who are willing to share seats on their private jets. So it's a business that's growing very quickly, and it absolutely affects our community. And because it seems to me to be somewhat of an intergalactic battle, I thought I'd use a Star Wars theme today. If that's all right with you. I'm a big Star Wars fan, and I'm a product of that original series. So it grossed $2 billion. Force Awakens did. But you are familiar with some of the usual suspects. So I'm going to set the cast for you. First, we're going to consider the shared services players, the Airbnb and Ubers of the world, to be kind of the Death Star platforms, okay? They're the empire, or at least in some people's estimation. But the stormtroopers are actually us as customers, because the only way that these platforms, this Death Star, can be created is if we're consuming the service. And I'm going to share with you some statistics about how fast these platforms are growing. So I consider sort of for this presentation, we as the stormtroopers are enabling the Death Star to be constructed. And then without too much disrespect, the founders of these platforms like Airbnb, I'm going to categorize as Jabba the Hutt, because they essentially were sitting around doing nothing. They came up with the best ways they could make money while they slept. And that was Jabba in the old Star Wars series. This is what the Airbnb founders looked like when they first started the company. They were literally not working, living with a bunch of guys, and they figured, you know, I bet we could rent out our couch and make a little bit of extra money on the side. And that's how they started Airbnb. That's how this grew up. So that sort of sets the star on these Death Star platforms. So these guys really have created a mix of technology, design, hip branding, ideology, community engagement that has changed the market. And this is a quote from Bill Johnson, who's with Structure 3C. I plugged in Death Star on this quote. It wasn't there in his original quote. But these Death Star platforms definitely exploit today's growing economic insecurity and political vacuum. Some would say they're conquering cities and users around the world, and they're not doing anything except benefiting from this vacuum by taking advantage of laws and political instability. That's one way to look at it. I think another way to look at it is kind of the American way. As entrepreneurs, they've created innovations that have paid off. And just to give you a sense of the size of these companies, Airbnb now has a market cap bigger than Marriott hotels. It's a $24 billion market cap. You can see 34,000 cities now, 190 countries. They have over 1 million listings and 60 million users. And in New York City alone, they're 10% of the volume, the accommodation volume in that city. It's remarkable in just a short amount of time. Uber has a $40 billion market cap. That is larger than FedEx as a market cap, as a valuation. They're in 50 countries, 290 cities. They've got 160,000 drivers now driving for Uber, and I'll come back to that in a minute. 8 million users and growing, and in New York City, they're now 15% of the pickups in the city, whereas 5 years ago, they were not even a player at all. So back to the stormtroopers. I don't know if you can tell, but this isn't the picture of the stormtroopers I sent you earlier. This is the new modern-day stormtrooper that was in Force Awakens. A lot of people think that this is because of millennials that this is happening, that it's millennials that are driving this chaos and this particular behavior because they're the ones that like the technology and they're the ones that like this disruption. But I think it's important to understand that even the old stormtroopers like me are becoming users. It's not just millennials. Very quickly, Gen X and matures and baby boomers are beginning to use shared services. And just to give you a sense for it, so this is some numbers around millennials and Uber and Lyft. In 2012, 9% of millennials used a transportation disruptor like Uber or Lyft. Last year it was 25%, almost a 300% change, and we expect that to jump to 40% in 2016. Think about that. 4 in 10 millennials have used a shared transportation provider. How about shared lodging? In 2014, 25% of millennials used a shared lodging option, HomeAway or Airbnb primarily. There are others. 80% of them said they'll do it again. And that is growing. And even, as I point out about generational cohorts, even with Gen X, in 2014, 14% of Gen Xers used alternative lodging, and 72% of them say they will use it again. In our study, the Portrait of the American Traveler, we're tracking a dramatic increase in matures and baby boomers now wanting to use Airbnb and HomeAway. So that begins to frame the issue for you. And to me, taking a taxi cab, for example, the fact that I don't always want to hail a taxi now, I want to use Uber, is not necessarily just about the product. It's becoming increasingly about a mindset. And it's about a mindset that, what is the most convenient, seamless way for me to travel? It is payment, or no pay. It's seamless payment. It's tracking my ride. It's having a cohabitation or a co-relationship with the supplier that I'm working with. It's a mindset that even traditional operators are beginning to learn from, and we'll also come back to that. But getting an Uber is, it's different. It's a process that has disrupted traditional taxi cabs. And even in the hotel environment, whereas traditionally you have a resort opportunity through a traditional operator, VRBO has been around for a long time. I mean, Wyndham Vacation alone has more than 500,000 units that have been around more than 10 years. So it's not as if condos and homes as inventory options are new. What's new is the technology and the aggregation that's happened in the marketplace that's allowed for the general consumers to take advantage of it. And this quote from Gail, where she's saying, you know, she's a compliment to hotel demand, that has always been true. And I would argue it is still true, and I'll talk about that in just a moment. But we should understand that with 60 million users, Airbnb is now a major player in our category. And there are people trying to fight that, and I think there's some reasons to fight that, but VRBO is going to be around, it's going to remain. And a point I would make, and this goes back to Gail's quote, that it's a compliment, 30% of the people who have traveled to a leisure destination only did so because they could stay in an Airbnb and they would not have traveled to that destination otherwise. In Santa Barbara, where we do a lot of business, we track very specifically the contributions of third parties, VRBO. And they're running historically over 80% occupancies. And they believe in that community that it's actually creating additional capacity to drive more visitation into the community. And I think that is one way. And now that we're collecting taxes in this community on these types of operators, it's a way to think about these new disruptors. But they actually provide a value. They provide more capacity for our community to grow. And they can be very much a complement. Even the players themselves, HomeAway and Airbnb, are marketing destinations specifically. They're targeting people who they know have a proclivity to come to Florida, and they're marketing their members' inventory to try to get them to go to Florida. So in some ways, they're even helping us market our communities. Emails, all sorts of different marketing metrics. I don't know if you know this, but this is Fort Myers, 223 Airbnb listings in Fort Myers alone. And you know, you can go to AirDNA, go to airdna.com, and you can look by community at where the listings are. It's actually a pretty fascinating tool. But understanding that these guys are real players in our own community, and they're increasingly becoming players across the country in terms of shared service accommodations. Point I made earlier, there are a lot of people who are, in my estimation, a bit in denial about this. This is an op-ed from Hotel Business that just appeared last month. Major owner in the economy lodging space. And essentially, he's telling the industry to fight. And this quote I pulled out here, these new entrants are so excited about their shiny new thing that they pretend they aren't breaking the law. And he continues to go on and talk about how it's an unfair playing environment. And I would actually say there's some truth to that. I think there's still time to play out where traditional operators and communities like ours have to make sure that there's an even playing field, that everybody's operating under the same rules, that everybody's carrying the same tax burden, that everybody's playing in the same regulation, the same regulatory pool. And I think those things are starting to happen. But to pretend that this trend is going to end or change or even be muted, I think is Pollyanna. We are well past the tipping point in terms of shared accommodations and shared transportation being meaningful parts of the way we do business. And as I said, there are still lawsuits going on. There are a lot of communities who have not yet been successful in creating a tax environment. There are places where there is an unfair environment in terms of competition that needs to be regulated out. But again, we see that as happening over time. One of the more, insidious might be the wrong words, but we are talking about the Death Star. In New York, there was a big fight by neighborhoods because of how their neighborhoods are changing when people come in and buy houses or condos and create transient environments in these neighborhoods. It's reshaping neighborhoods, and they're literally pushing back at the local level. This is a look at the housing market in California. The green graph is new net housing. The blue is commercial units being added into those neighborhoods, either through purchase and conversion or new build. Now, what happens when this goes on? Two things. As I said, it changes the neighborhoods in which these people are living, but it also drives housing prices through the roof. So the fact that all this inventory is now being grown is causing problems even at the local level, which I think there will be pushback there. And I think more regulations will come in, and you'll begin to see some zoning restrictions around the type of inventory that can be added in a Lee County, where it can be added, and how it can be added. But again, there's so much consumer demand now, and in all our research, we're seeing even older travelers wanting to try a shared accommodation option, that we believe it continues to grow quite a bit. I think everybody knows that in the taxi world, you buy a medallion, and in New York, medallions have been rising in price for years. If you wanted to drive a taxi cab back in 2000, you paid about $250,000 for that right, and you essentially mortgaged that medallion. Medallions went up over $1 million just a few years ago. So to drive a cab, you had to spend $1 million to buy a medallion. You can see from this graph, just in the last 18 months, what's happened to the value of medallions, as 15% of traffic in the city is being picked up by Uber drivers. So it's changing the landscape. I had a conversation, I had an Uber from my office in New York to the airport on Wednesday, and I talked to my driver a little bit about it, and he was a cab driver 2 years ago, and he's now an Uber driver. And he was talking to me about how much more money he makes now, and how much easier it is for him. And what I think sometimes is lost in this whole shared economy discussion is that it's a two-way street. It's not just a proposition that in many cases is benefiting our traveler and our customer, but it's benefiting the labor. The community that supports the transportation, they're getting a better deal too. And it's becoming a two-way street. I'm not sure how well you can see this chart, but in every case in Boston, Chicago, DC, LA, New York, San Francisco, Uber and Lyft drivers are making far more money than the cab drivers are. And so you want to talk about Darth Vader or Darth Maul or Darth Sidious, that's what this is to the taxi industry. And in fact, they're fighting back too. In Toronto, they blocked the streets with cabs and burned tires. In China, they had a huge blow up there. We've seen the Caribbean burning tires and driving a protest against shared accommodation drivers. You can see the guy with a little hammer here on the front of the hood. But I mean, this again, to me, is a sense of denial. It's not going to change things. This migration is going to continue to happen. And not to suggest that everybody's going to go out of business, as the largest taxi cab company in San Francisco did. They just declared bankruptcy. Can you imagine that? The largest taxi cab company in San Francisco had to declare bankruptcy because of the effect of Uber and Lyft. Uber and Lyft were both started in San Francisco. I would not say that that's going to be universally true. I think there'll be room for both operators. But these traditional operators, and I'm talking to all of us, hotel operators, airline operators, and especially transportation operators, have to continue to evolve and innovate their own products. That's the only way that this is going to change, because we're not going to be able to fight it off. So what does the future look like in addition to the 10 or 12 movies we're going to see in the next few years from the Star Wars spin-offs? To me, as I said, it's not a question of devastation of these industries. Traditional operators are going to survive. But to my point a second ago, our customers want this kind of product. And we have to adapt as suppliers, and we have to work with these industries to be successful. And I'm talking about the way we look at revenue management, price transparency, our technology. I mean, one of the big lures for Uber early on was I could use my phone to order a car and watch it come get me. And then I have a relationship with the driver where he rates me and I rate him. Wow. Those are the kinds of things that even as traditional providers we can do, creating those kinds of technologies. So I think it's certainly not all doom and gloom. I think there's a lot still to be played out, but I think we all should understand that it's here. I'm going to close with a video. L2 Research is one of my favorite research operations. This is a conversation about how big Amazon has become in our lives. Very short, but I think I want you to think about the parallels between this and Airbnb and HomeAway and Uber and Lyft. Whoops. Try it again. Sorry about that. I didn't warn you before that I had sound. That's my fault. It's about a minute and a half long, so it won't take a lot of time, and then I'll be glad to answer questions after if you have any.
So in January, we get to look back at the biggest winners and losers across the all-important holiday shopping season, and there really is a very simple story here, and the story is Amazon, who captured 51 cents of every additional $1 American spent online this year. That's right. It's Jeff Bezos' world. We just shop in it. Think about it. In terms of retail growth, Amazon is now responsible for fully a quarter of all retail growth, and yes, over half of all e-commerce growth. The Seattle Goliath appears to be unstoppable. Estimates suggest that half of American households will have a Prime membership by 2020. If cord cutting continues, then you might have more American households who have a relationship with Amazon than have cable That means that the cable pipe of stuff coming to you is Amazon. Amazon is the most disruptive company in the largest economy in the world.
So you get a sense, and in the Amazon ecosystem, some brands and manufacturers and suppliers have figured out how to play with them and be successful, while others have tried to fight them and at their own peril. And I think that's, to me, what's instructive about what's happening in the travel industry. With that, I'd be glad to answer any questions you have.
He's ours. Use him.
Tony.
How do you see, it's very interesting too, like, come on board and the, shared accommodations. The question is, I think, to me, is where I like a level playing field. And the idea of regulations, I get the fire department coming to see me, I get the health department. I just think if they're gonna be in the field, that's fine, but they need to have the fire department come and see them, all these other things. How do you see that evolving? Do you see that coming on sooner with regulations, or how?
I do. To me and to our research team, it was first about the tax environment, because once you create a legal taxation, you then have permission to go a little bit further with code, et cetera. And what we've seen in other communities, most notably in San Francisco, for example, the Hotel Association, the Restaurant Association, believe it or not, and other economic development teams are kind of coming together and imposing those kinds of things on these operators. And you'll typically find hotel or home associations or other kind of aggregators in there, but the big pressure points are being put on Airbnb specifically. And they're being asked to start to play ball a little bit because they've become so big. And when you think about the fact that they're bigger than Marriott, it just blows your mind in terms of market cap. But I think pressure's being applied, and I think even in this community, it's something I'm sure you'll be looking at leading.
We just went through lobbying on Miami Beach for ordinances put through. And the city there put ordinances just because it's out of hand right now on Miami Beach, where commercially planned developments, they have to check in at a front desk. So, if it's a condo building, those people can't rent through these organizations unless they come through a front desk. That somebody's got to be on site 24 hours to service them from a safety and a security standpoint. I think you're going to start seeing more cities starting that, following Miami Beach.
And that's in Vail, Colorado, where a lot of VRB has historically been a powerful force. That's the model they've been using. So people like East West and others have that kind of check-in, that kind of touch point for the customer when they first arrive.
I'm sorry, Renee.
Renee, do, sir.
It's a really...
And that's just Fort Myers Beach.
It's a really good question, but interestingly enough, Bill and I had this conversation recently, and I believe we do a really good job in Lee County. I want you to hear that. Now, are we getting to everybody? If somebody wants to slide under the radar, they're going to slide under the radar. But I've actually just yesterday met with the clerk of courts. On our behalf, the clerk of courts collects the tourist development tax. Met with her staff and asked them. We were talking about a presentation for them to come in. This was Bill's suggestion and a really good one. A lot of new faces around the table, and we want to make sure everybody understands how our collections team really goes about that process of collecting taxes here. They have a very aggressive effort. They look on all these sites, identify where these properties are, and then check their roll to make sure that they are registered as a bed tax collector. They have the ability to audit them, and they track it very closely. Just in context, we have over 7,000 accounts in Lee County that pay the bed tax. If you'll remember, when I give you your budget report every year, I put the number from Orange County, where Orlando is. And they have a few hundred accounts in Orange County. So in context, we are at least identifying and getting them to register as bed tax collectors in our community. So I think we're doing a much better job of it than some communities.
No, I'm sure that's true, because I'm seeing it not being done at all.
But I think it's important to add, we've always been a community with a high number of vacation rentals. Some of these communities, like when you talk about New York, I think that's a big change, right? It was hoteliers, and I'm sure there were some people renting their flats, but the number of people that have become entrants into the shared economy that previously weren't has changed significantly. But in our community, I think we've always had this super high number of vacation rentals. I mean, I don't think, and I'm being honest, we estimate over 5,000 units at any one given time of vacation rentals, compared to just under 12,000 hotel rooms. So in context, and I don't know that we have a good handle on that, because it might be a vacation rental this week or this month, but for the other 11 months or 50 months of the year, it's not. And how do you accommodate for those one-offs that they rent, 1 month a year or 1 week a year or whatever their case may be? My daughter's in Austin. Everybody rents their apartment for South by Southwest. Suddenly you've got a whole bunch of new for 1 week a year vacation rentals that aren't vacation rentals the rest of the year. So
I would even say that a lot of traditional hotels that play in the commercial space, meaning business transient and meetings, thought they were immune from this effect. In fact, it's not true. You're starting to see Airbnb launch products for both meetings and business travel. So they're trying to grow that footprint as well.
And I was going to ask you, just out of curiosity, don't you really think the greatest driver of this is the ease of the technology? It's like online booking. You remember when you guys all used to take your reservations over the phone? Like having that booking engine made life so much easier to book your rooms and track where you were and all that. This is, as a traveler, a frequent traveler, not having to get out cash or a credit card for a cab, especially a woman traveling alone. I love that. Why wouldn't you use something that makes it that easy for you? It makes everything simpler. It's all driven. Your credit card information is in there. You don't have to provide anything at the moment, much like your loyal traveler programs that you use. If I book a room at IHG, I don't have to put any of my information in because I'm a frequent traveler and I'm in their program. All of it's taken care of. It's that same service that benefits this program, I think. Sorry.
Clayton, look, thank you very much for that most timely report. If there's anybody in the industry, tourism, that didn't understand what he was trying to tell us, then you better hire a new assistant manager to help you, because this is the world we live in today. I had my first experience a couple of months ago in D.C. With Uber, and I was astounded how easy it was. And I didn't have the credit card or the relationship with the guy with me had to go to the airport, and he said, well, just a minute, I'll get it. He touches 3 little buttons, and all of a sudden here's a cab. It's not a cab, it's a brand new Toyota Camry without a cigarette smell. It's right there. Zap, drops me. I don't have to tip. Everything is done. It is so easy. It's 21st century, and there's a few people still fighting it. And I'm just describing Uber. You're talking about the whole industry and all the other ripple effects of what it means to be in a computer age, and some people are still fighting it. I'll give you an example. We passed, with a lot of agony last year, a special ordinance to deal with Uber, and it had to do with the insurance requirements. At the time, I think we passed it unanimously. I was reluctant to really do it because picture this, Lee County with a Uber ordinance and Collier County with an Uber ordinance. One of them picks you up at the airport and goes to a different set of rules in one county and a different set of rules in the other county, and up and down the coast or wherever they're going. The legislature has before it right now, for the second time, an opportunity to do something that at least is statewide and makes sense, so you don't run into 67 different ordinances, which just don't make sense. But we were under the pressure, actually from the taxi industry, to do something, because these guys are coming in and taking over. Wouldn't have mattered if we did this or didn't do it. They're coming in, and they are taking over. It's a new world, and it's easy. That's the point. It is so easy for the public, for the consuming public. So, again, very timely. Thank you for a little wake-up call for those of you who may be napping while this is going on around you, because the guy competing with you next door, he's not napping. He knows this is happening. New business. Nancy?
Okay, thank you. Happy New Year, and since there are so many new faces on the TDC, at the advice of the TDC Events Subcommittee, who met in November,
because it's time to open fiscal year 17 funding already. We wanted to give you an update on the difference between attractions and events, because they have a topic that they would like to have you consider that concerns a guideline change for both the attractions marketing program and the events marketing program. So as many of you are aware, the events and attractions was developed to enhance, in the case of attractions marketing, which is administered by the Community Foundation, it was developed probably in the late 90s to enhance the visitor experience. So it's available to area nonprofits to develop year-round marketing pieces. Unlike events marketing, which is a very complex, rigid program that drives room nights during the need period. Since the year 2000, we have pushed out $5.7 million in TDC marketing dollars to area attractions. As a backup to the new business item, I provided you a snapshot of the last 6 years or so, since fiscal year 10. We have distributed about $1.1 million to events marketing, events in the area, and $2.3 million to attraction partners. So just to give you a little bit of a comparison, the attractions marketing program has an annual budget of $350,000, and this year you funded 39 attractions, and that probably is the highest we've ever been able to fund. And many of them are smaller attractions that don't have a big marketing budget, so you're providing dollars for them to offset and develop some good pieces. They also are required to go through education with the VCB, so we're trying to strengthen their product. And the average grant through that program is about $10,000. It can be as low as $2,000, or some of them are receiving $18,000. So again, 39 attractions. Now the events marketing program has an annual budget of $200,000, and in the last 6 years, I mentioned they got about $1 million. These events need to develop a multiple-day event in the need period, so we're not funding any events in season, and they on average get about $16,000 for their event marketing budgets. And here's just another little snapshot to compare. Attractions, for instance, Sharon, who was here earlier, she actually is developing an event with a year-round marketing component, and her event is in season, so she would fall under the attractions category. Again, she has a year-round marketing component. She's pushing out marketing pieces to the hotels, which is a requirement of that program. The events marketing program, again, they're developing multiple day events in the shoulder season. They have very strict criteria they need to follow, including partnering with hotels, developing packages, and providing ROIs on the spend. Attractions marketing is a little bit less strict in the terms of they can develop local pieces, like a wrap card to provide to hotels. Events marketing must spend out of area. They cannot spend any of the dollars you give them in area. Appealing thing about the attractions marketing program is it's non-reimbursable. As soon as the fiscal year opens and the budget's approved, we're able to give them the money and they take off and do their thing. Events marketing is by reimbursement, and we work with them. The marketing staff works with them very regularly to check to see how they're doing with their marketing placements and provide assistance. We have a cap for attractions marketing, no cap for events. With some matches, events marketing requires a match, and both of them have to provide final reports. The events marketing funding recipients must show increases in room night revenue as well as marketing impressions in order to continue to receive funding. So what we want to talk to you today about is attractions in the area who receive attractions funding are also developing some pretty good events. And right now the guidelines say you can only apply for marketing dollars through either events or attractions. So we wanted to know if the TDC would consider perhaps lifting that guideline change. These are nonprofits that are very good at what they do, and right now the rules are restricting them. And we used to allow events to apply, organizations to apply for 2 events. In the case of Fort Myers Beach Chamber, they used to run sand sculpting and Pirate Festival. A few years back, we changed that rule, and in order to spread the money around the community, the county a little bit more, and didn't really work. We didn't have a whole lot of other events come forward and apply for the money, and we believe it's because the program is so strict. It has great benefit, but it's a lot more work. So the solution that we came up with would be to consider allowing eligible organizations to apply for up to 2 funding allocations per year. So an attraction might also apply for an event marketing grant, or those events that are doing a really great job and doing multiple events throughout the year could apply for 2 events. And Pam, you can chime in whenever you want. She's our fearless TDC Events Marketing Chair of the subcommittee, as well as she sits on the Attractions Review Committee with the Community Foundation. So she knows all the applicants.
I think this is a really great solution. In committee, we talked about a lot of different things, but I really like the idea of organizations that do a great job with events being able to promote 2 events through our funding, or go with the attractions and events applications. I think this is a really good solution to open it up for more funding possibilities.
Pam, just maybe a little history from you would help with this too, because it seems like a number of years ago there was a certain limitation that we might put on, and I would say it's probably less about attractions and more about events, that the event would have to, we'd be basically providing seed money for the event, and then eventually that event would stand on its own and would not get funding anymore. And then there was some talk that you might have a few signature events each year that would not be subject to those same parameters. What, can you give a little history as to what has transpired there? I mean, is that the case, or am I remembering that incorrectly?
No, that's exactly the case. That was the original intent, was to have the seed money and then back the events off. What we've done is the events get less funding as they move on through the years, and I think it's the 4th year that it starts cutting back. What we did with the signature event is that's how the Songwriter Festival came about. So that's like absolutely separate now. So it's moved out of the events marketing realm, and the VCB staff handles that directly. So that's our great keystone event that's growing exponentially. So we're really happy about that. But yeah, that was the original intent, and that still is very true in attractions. In the attractions program, you can see that the amounts are smaller. There's many of those organizations get $2,500, and that's really all they're asking for. They just need a little pop to do that. So that really, being able to open the organizations up to do both, that really keeps that going along. But we found that we're getting, because the events marketing program is so restrictive, and it really is, quite, the committee is very diligent to make sure that those funds are well presented, or well represented. So it is a little more difficult, but it makes a lot of sense, and it does bring business in the off and shoulder season, and I think that it's serving the community well.
We got a motion and a second. Somebody want to discuss it further? Is there objection to that motion?
Clarify that means that if somebody, that they can go for one of each.
Yes.
Like it doesn't really, it just says 2. It doesn't really say. Right now they can't.
Right.
Correct?
Right.
Right.
I just want to make sure that we understand that like, I think it was the city of Cape Coral had an example where they want some year-round funding help, but then they also might be able to put on any help with events marketing because it would have an overnight stay and some room nights. So they're able to now.
Right, but remember, the event needs to be eligible.
Well, following the criteria,
Yeah.
exactly.
Right.
I don't remember what it was, but that's, okay. It's not just 2, they could actually apply one out of each place, which
Right.
they cannot do right now.
Colleen, just to clarify, one attractions application and one events application, or 2 events applications?
Right.
Okay, that's not what this
But
says.
maybe, because I don't want anybody to be confused that there could be 2 attractions applications, just one attractions application.
Let's make certain everybody is happy with that.
That was
What
the
we're saying
intention.
is that they can apply for 2 funding allocations. We're not defining by this motion.
We're not getting detail enough.
We're not, I'm not saying we need to. I'm just saying we need to understand. I want them to be eligible to request the funds that either 1, help them market, or 2, give them an event
that brings overnight stay following the criteria, or both? Like, I think we need that flexibility now. I think we have some great things going on in our market, but right now, this is pretty loose, and if we can keep it loose, and that's fine with me, but I just want to make sure we all understand when we talked about it, so.
Hey, I wasn't trying to limit discussion here. Does anybody else have any questions, concerns, clarifications? Pam, you're looking at me.
Thank you. I do think we do need to make that clarification, and Renee, I think you.
What was your?
My minutes taker down there comfortable? Are my members comfortable? Is there further discussion on it? Thank you, Colleen, for that clarification. No further discussion. Is there objection to that motion? Show it passing unanimously. Very well. Thank you. Thank you so much, Nancy. Council information. Ms. Pygott?
There are a few items in your packet, but just for your leisure reading.
Including Fran's hot list. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Hot Fran's hot list. Yes, there we go. I'll get in trouble for that one. Head on that one.
It's been recorded.
Okay. TDC member comments. Pam, let's start with you and come around.
Thank you. I have resisted, but I do have shameless self-promotion this month. We have our largest event of the year. Our Gumbo Fest is coming up on January 31st. It's a fundraiser for our Environmental Education Foundation, and we've gone back to our roots. We're going back to Zydeco music and lots of gumbo. We're bringing in Dwayne Dupsy and the Zydeco Hellraisers from New Orleans and the Porch Dogs from Orlando. So we're really excited about that event. It's from 11 to 6 on Sunday, January 31st. So please come out and support the nature park and just come have some great gumbo and wonderful Cajun music. Thank you.
Come on down.
Well said, thank you. Got a couple things. Last meeting, we discussed a couple issues that I want to make sure we bring forth again. We are the Tourist Development Council and the Advisory Board of the County Commissioners. We also oversee the money spent. There are two issues that I really think it's our duty to discuss at this table and come up with an opinion to advise the Board of County Commissioners. The first one is the BP settlement funds. Those monies were accepted by the County Commission, $5.2 million back on July of 2015 for the Deepwater Horizon oil spill as a result of loss of tourism. I think we as a council should come up with an opinion to give to the Board of County Commissioners on how we think that money should be used. The second issue is the TDC reserves. We've been talking about this for almost a year now. I know the Board of County Commissioners is working on this, but then again, this Tourist Advisory Council should be coming up with some opinions to advise the Board of County Commissioners, because that's why we were created, to advise them on all things tourism, on how possibly these reserves should be used and structured. And I think it's a loss that we haven't really discussed this as a council yet, and I think that we should. It is our duty to oversee these bed tax dollars and oversee these all things tourism, and I think we need to have an opinion on this. How does everybody else feel, and when can we discuss this?
Well, those are fair questions for this body here. Let me say on the BP funds, there are several sources of BP punishment that inures to the benefit of counties and people all up and down the Gulf Coast. And frankly, I can't begin to tell you which ones. And isn't the jury still out, or do we need to ask Pete Winton or somebody else about what we've done so far is designating those dollars? We don't have them all yet. They're still coming.
Correct, yes.
Help me as best you can. Status of BP.
It's my understanding, although we have entered into the agreement, we have not yet received the funding.
My thought is there's still time to deal with that and have input from the council, I think. Fran?
Commissioner, as you know, sometime back you appointed a BP Oil Committee, and the only reason I know this because I sat on that committee, appointed by you and the other commissioners, and I think I do sit there, and Tam comes a lot to the meetings representing tourism. So I think the jury on our committee is still kind of out, and I don't know whether they have recommended to the Board of Commissioners yet on different ways to spend that money.
I don't
Tam,
think
maybe
so.
you're more updated on that.
That hadn't
Colleen,
happened
you've
yet.
been there too. It is, but
That BP, the 5 million from BP is than the money from, that's being worked on by Restore.
Correct.
'Cause
Yes.
Restore, that
It's
money is
Restore.
gonna go to water quality.
Right.
Because that was the, we decided as a group that was the right purpose for that money based on what happened. But that money could trickle in, that's a whole different, at this point, we're not even meeting because that is so far backed up. But the ARC 2 completely,
they are.
Correct.
right. So the BP 5.2 is something that's gonna probably happen a whole lot sooner than that money that we would work on with Restore, I think.
But I didn't think all that money had to go to water.
I think the Restore piece, that Restore Act.
All that has to go
It
to
doesn't
the
have to, but that's.
I didn't think,
The group, I shouldn't say, the group that's, that advisory council, that is the focus of the spend. I mean, it's gonna be a very arduous grant it's gonna be well done, but right now it would be, we were not putting the money back into the tourism piece, water and environmental and long-term projects, right, that was the thought, but the 5.2 BP, Restore has nothing to do with that.
There's many counties that have already received their share and have already put it back in. So my point, and I always feel this way, I'd rather be proactive and discuss it instead of reactive. And I just don't think we should put this in the back burner. We have money that we could really use towards marketing, towards events funding, towards anything we wanted to spend to continue to be competitive in this market and as a destination. So I don't want to just lose sight of that and have it just go to whatever. I think this money should come back to tourism and to tourism marketing.
Let me suggest this. I know we're not close to a decision on how the money's going to be dispersed, and we don't even know when we're going to get some of it. And definitely, Restore comes with a lot of formulas attached to it, and there's not going to be all that much for Lee County out of it. But I understand your concern that the council review this. I mean, if it was tourism that we lost, then our tourist people should have a say in it. But we've got time I'm sorry that Roger DeJarlais is not here today because Tamara's reminded me, I know we've got at least one county commission workshop on this, and then it'll be open to the public for a blue-sheeted action point later. So there's time for us to get the information to you guys, us guys, to do what you want to do. Have some at least review and recommendation role here to play. And between now and our next meeting, between Fran and Tamara and our staff over across the street, we'll make certain that it's much clearer what the options are available to us and that you guys have a chance to say yes or no.
I think it's important that all of us have a chance in this board to discuss that, as well as the TDC reserve situation, too.
I can tell you one commissioner would welcome your input on this because, I don't know how to do it. I don't know how to divide this baby fairly, so I'll be looking for that input.
And that's what we're here to do.
And that's why we pay you the big bucks. Yes, sir.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah. And the
reserves.
debate, the reserves, we've just had some discussion on the reserves, and there's going to be a lot more. Have you got something to add on that, Tamara, as to what you see your role?
A tiny bit. Yesterday, at the request of county administration, I brought in a small group of constituents, so to speak, some hotel partners, a couple of TDC members were at the table, attractions partner, municipal partners, just to have the beginning, and I want to be clear, that conversation is intended to come here, but have a conversation about how do you recommend the board go forward with reserves, and the talk is a common reserve, rather than, as you know, the TDC funds or the tourist tax funds are divided into 3 pots. rather than having a reserve for each of those categories, have one common reserve, and then what's an appropriate minimum reserve level? And that conversation began yesterday, led by Pete Winton, Assistant County Manager. And unfortunately, Roger wasn't able to join us yesterday, but there will be absolutely a follow-up to that. Some questions were asked, a good discussion, and Pete asked that we reconvene that group again to, hash out some more of those issues that were raised. Renee was at the table, and Rob as well, and Pam, and Chris Pendleton from the Edison Home, Judy Zamamra from the city of Sanibel. And the questions that they brought to the table, county administration wants a chance to go back, look at those, and come back with some more answers to that and continue that conversation. But that was just conversation number one. And that, by the way, was at the direction of the Board of County Commissioners. They asked the county administration seek out input from the industry, and absolutely the TDC is part of that. We just wanted to kind of get a good feel from a few people and then bring that conversation here that, we've reached out, we've begun conversations, and what do you think? So stay tuned. I mean, I don't want to say stay tuned, but I mean, we're working through that process, and maybe Rob or Pam or Renee would like to comment about.
Pam, you got any comments? You were at the meeting.
I think Tamara's pretty well covered it. I think the most important thing is it's just an ongoing conversation that there were questions asked, and I think there's going to be many more conversations and workshops and meetings before we even maybe consider a workshop. I don't know, but I think that it was a good start. It was a good fact-finding mission, and we kind of gave Pete direction to get some more information for us.
Are we doing just the simple chore of asking other VCBs in Florida what they have as a reserve, I'm sure?
I've done that.
I'm sure.
And it is completely inconsistent, just so you know.
There's
We're
no
consistently inconsistent.
All right.
I was hopeful, honestly. I reached out to our professional association hoping that there was some sort of industry standard.
Yeah.
But there unfortunately is not. And so, people are very varied in that. Judy Zamamra mentioned that the Government Finance Officers Association recommends a 17% reserve for governmental agencies. So again, there are some other, governmental sort of association standards, but in particular, CVBs seem to be managed a little bit differently in each community, and how they're handling their reserves is being handled differently.
I just want to make sure it comes back to this council at some point for us to review, because as the leaders of tourism, we should be able to advise.
I think that was the commission's intention.
Yeah.
Well, and that's why we had that first meeting, and I can assure you there's every effort going to be made to that this be, the favorite word nowadays is transparent.
Transparent.
And the folks that are affected, we're certainly asking for that input, which we've already done. One of the most difficult things in government I've learned over the years I've been privileged to dabble in it, is that the easiest budgets to deal with are those when you're short and revenues are falling and you're just doing everything you can to stay alive. When you get generous surpluses like we've been experiencing here of late, that's when the debates, the battles, and the fights begin. But you want to be ever alert, because I think the price of liberty, price of freedom, eternal vigilance is the price required for freedom. So to keep you free, we're going to be eternally vigilant, and we'll make certain that the council here has every opportunity to participate. In the final analysis, as you well know, the county commission is burdened with the decision as to how the big split comes down.
Sure, absolutely. Thank you. One last thing, your Lee County Hotel Association will be having its next luncheon on the 28th of this month at the Embassy Suites in Estero, and our speaker is going to be Tam Pygott, our executive director here, and talking about tourism in the new year.
Get your tickets early, because they'll
Tickets
be
early
going
at
fast.
LeeCountyHotelAssociation.com.
Moving along.
I'm good, thanks.
Mayor?
Nothing, but I would ask, I have a meeting at 11 o'clock on the beach, and so I need to excuse myself, but it's a real pleasure to work with all of you. Thank you.
Thank you for all you do and all the hats you wear.
Yes, lots of
Renee? that'll happen. Thanks, Renee, for that additional clarification. Anything further? Ms. Fran?
I'm good.
You're good? Elaine?
Quick item reminders that the Chrysalis nomination, but those nominations are due this Friday. It takes 10 minutes to nominate. It's the nominee that does then have the burden of giving us information so that we can see if they are award-winning. But there's writable PDFs on both the VCB site and the Greater Fort Myers Chamber site. So take that 10 minutes and find, there are plenty of companies, or you guys know somebody who deserves this honor. So if you could nominate them, we would greatly.
Rob?
Sure, I just wanted to follow up a little bit on what Jeff had question Jeff had, and I think it's, we have a two-part issue. We've got this reserve number that we're working on, and our council when the time comes. Also, the various options for this excess that will most likely be reserves and where that should go. But another one that I kind of realized during the meeting yesterday is that, ironically, the way we work our funds in various pots, at times limit us because we base our spend on what the future year is going to assume is going to happen, a year that has not occurred yet. And one of the problems you run into with that, other than being conservative, which is a great thing, and having a lot of reserves, but maybe too many, is this marketing component that I think we're all concerned around the table on. And there might be something that we can come together with on a better mechanism to work to better use reserves when it comes to potential marketing reserves. Because what I think what we're waiting for is oil spill, hurricane, a clear disaster that happens that causes the need for use of reserves. But you could make a case that a 3 or 4% loss in business next year should trigger somehow to use reserves to say, how do we now, in a downward business cycle, better spend our marketing money to combat those issues? And right now, we don't have that mechanism. Right now, we just adjust the marketing downward based on the income. And that seems a little counterintuitive. So I think when it comes forward, we probably have a lengthy discussion. I'd love to see it on an agenda item where we figure out exactly how we want to suggest to the commissioners some of those reserves might be used moving forward.
Thanks, Rob. Tony?
For that, nothing else I can say.
Well, our agenda has run out of gas, and we are adjourned.
Just want to let you know, I just had an alert from one of our staff people who's really kind of the storm guru in the office, and she says there is a severe thunderstorm warning for North Cape Coral. So if anyone's headed in that direction, you might want to be very, very careful. And the storm is moving to the north and to the east, so maybe wait it out a little bit. Just recommendation.
Drive around downtown and enjoy the artwork.
I had an answer, sir. You had a question.
It's very